Hey guys, MCU Collector here with another figure review. Next up is the Hasbro Marvel Legends Series Hasbro Pulse exclusive retro vintage Fantastic Four. This is the variant, the Invisible Woman Invisible variant. Of course, the Hasbro Pulse exclusive, much like the Johnny Storm, the powered down or flame off version. It is exclusive to Hasbro Pulse, whereas the regular release, Sue, anyway, was in her regular blue and white suit. But we have here the variant. So here is the shipper box. It is just the white shipper box, as you can see here, that Hasbro Pulse was shipping out in. But here is the figure itself. And again, excuse me, the card back and everything is exactly like the regular release, except for the card. The title card is yellow instead of black, and then Marvel's Invisible Woman is in blue instead of red. And then the artwork, of course, represents the variant, so she is invisible in the artwork. But other than that, it's the same accessory, same everything, just all translucent clear plastic, which is really cool. And I like that this version is the exclusive and how they did it. So that is pretty cool. Looking at the back of the package, it says, for her bio, after receiving superpowers, Sue Storm Richards co-founds the Fantastic Four and emerges as the single most powerful member of the group. So here we have a look at the gimmick of the figure, which would be the interchangeable hands. We get that invisible artwork there. So excuse me, that is really cool. But enough of that. Let's get the figure out of the package. I was pretty hard on the original release, the regular release, because the face sculpt I didn't think was very good. Maybe it was the way the paint was applied. Something about it was very off to me. But this translucent version, looking at it in the package, it actually looks really cool. So this one I think is actually definitely going to be a really good one. So let's open it up and find out. Okay, and here is the Invisible Woman figure out of the package, and this is a really good one. This is a really fun one, and the fact that it's translucent plastic, there's no paint on this figure whatsoever, absolutely nowhere, nothing for her eyes, nothing to outline anything. It is translucent 100%, not a single drop of paint. And the fact that it doesn't have that makes the figure so much better, because it's truly invisible, where hologram, they do little line work or whatever, and you see these little things, even with like the AI Tony Stark, the head sculpt, I think they painted on like the eyebrows and things like that. But for a truly Invisible Woman figure, they did that. They didn't highlight anything, which was really cool. And because we don't have any paint on the face, we don't see this. So it's just the craziest thing when you look at the head sculpt without the paint on there, and look at it with the paint. It's just something that is off with it. But the translucent one, you don't get a feel for that whatsoever. It doesn't look bad in any way. So it has to just be in the paint, right? It's not the sculpt of it, because if the sculpt looks fine, when there's no paint to it, then it has to be the paint, right? I don't know, but it's just kind of one of those things. We get the same force field effect piece here for Sue, and then she also has interchangeable hands, so we get a pair of fists that we could swap out of the package. She has these open hands, as you can see there. But it is done really nicely. There's no gumminess to it whatsoever. I don't know if it's just because it's stiff, because it's been cold lately, or what it is, but it doesn't feel gummy in any way, which is really nice. But let's get in for a closer look to look at some of the cool things of seeing a translucent figure. Okay, so as I'm looking at the figure now through the viewfinder here, it does look kind of scary how this original release kind of did, and that's because of how the light is shining through it and stuff. So having it in hand, you don't see kind of how that light will kind of reflect it, but the sculpt of it doesn't look bad. But it is in fact the same sculpt as far as I could tell. There's even the little patch of hair that's actually sculpted on the head sculpt, because the hair is a different piece. But one big difference between this figure and this figure is how far down the hair sits on the head sculpt. So on mine, the hair looks kind of puffy and it's a little bit higher, and I think that kind of contributes to the problem a little bit. The easiest way I kind of notice is if you look at the combed hair portion here, look how close to the eye it gets there, whereas here it's very far off from the eye, so it sits on there so much lower. And that makes kind of a big difference. Looking at like height wise, you can see it stands just a tad bit higher because the hair sits sits lower on the translucent one, and I think that definitely makes it better. You can't see the strong jawline of the head sculpt on this one so much, whereas, you know, on this one you can absolutely see it. And I don't know if the hair just kind of hides it, or the translucent, you don't see the full shape of it, but the jaw just doesn't look as bad in my opinion, so that is pretty cool. The other thing here is because we did not get any paint, you don't get like the translucent like Fantastic Four logo or anything on there. Again, I actually really like the fact that they did that. It is done clear plastic, so there's not like any kind of tint or hue or coloring to it at all, which is nice. But some of the weird things that you see and some of the inner workings of the figure, you know, you can see some letters in there to represent which different parts and pieces, you know, that they are. You see how things kind of connect, you know, like the wrist pegs there, how the elbow joint works there, and it pegs into that upper joint because it's not a double jointed elbow, you know, at all. The peg there between the lower torso and the upper torso, the knees, and you can see the ratchets in the knees, so that is pretty cool. And then the ankles there. So it's all really cool how you can see how all the translucentness, not translucentness, but because it's translucent, how all the inner workings of the figure works, and kind of how it all pieces together. So that is actually really cool. Something that you don't get to see you know, too often, unless you know, start taking apart some figures, and you may have an idea. But you know, for somebody like me that would never take anything apart because I wouldn't even know where to begin, it's pretty cool to see that. The hair being a translucent color, it's not as hard as you might think. It's not as soft, or it's actually pretty similar, but they are able to use a translucent plastic there. So just really cool. I like the way it looks. But let's see how she moves. Okay, so Sue, she can look down pretty much all the way, as you can see there. Not really going to look up because the hair is going to hit her back. You get a full rotation at the neck, some pivot going on in there. Get the shoulder to go up and out that much. Full rotation in there, of course. There is no upper bicep swivel or anything like that. We are in a single jointed elbow for the female figure. It is a little tight, but you can get the swivel in there. Single joint, so you only get just about 90-degree bend, as you can see there. Wrists swivel, and they do hinge. We have the diaphragm joint on female figure, so she can pivot to her left that much. She can pivot to her right that much. She can bend forward very, very little. She can go back a little bit, not a whole lot. You get a swivel at that diaphragm joint because there's no waist swivel, of course. Female figures, legs go out that far apart. That is not a whole lot at all. She can kick forward pretty high, so that is really good. Leg does go back a little bit. You have an upper thigh cut in there. You get a solid double jointed knee like so. No calf swivel or anything. Foot hinges down that much. You get a hinge up a little bit. Ankle pivot, peg holes at the bottom of the feet. So there is her articulation. Now let's see the team together. Okay, so first let's start with the Hasbro Pulse exclusives. So the center ones are the Hasbro Pulse exclusives. The ones on the outside are the regular releases. I didn't realize this at the time, but even the Johnny Storm, he has different forearms. So I noticed, but I don't know if I mentioned it when I had reviewed it. But you know, when we talk about the figures being basically the same, but just changing up kind of the looks, Johnny Storm does in fact get different sculpted forearms. The rest of the figure is the same, like he has the same hands and things like that. And the head sculpt, of course, is going to be different. But other than that, you know, they're the same. Whereas Invisible Woman is 100% the same sculpt, same accessories, just translucent plastic, no paint, which is really cool. So the Human Torch figure, the Flame On version, is such a really nice figure. That's the one that people really should have. So it being the regular release makes sense. The Hasbro Pulse exclusive, it's cool. If you want to finish the team and have all the team in their classic colors, definitely a nice touch to do that. Because even if you got this Human Torch, you could really fit him in with whatever versions that you may have, whether it was the Super Scroll Wave Fantastic Four team or the Walgreens exclusive team. It could kind of work. Whereas this Invisible Woman could also work with any of them as well. So I guess it's kind of weird that that would be, you know, the exclusive. But I think a regular release, not as many people would buy it completely translucent. Maybe I'm wrong there. I don't know how well Invisible Woman figures would have done in the past, it being translucent, but I do think, you know, this one is a must-have. You know, it doesn't necessarily round out the team or anything like that, so it's kind of up in the air on you know, specifically how you would want your team to look, or if you're a completist, or if you just like them on card, or however that works. But it can work with other teams, but it does look good, you know, when you want to do things. And I'm sure people could do some really cool photography using both of these, you know, if there's like some kind of transitioning effect or something. Yeah, but you guys let me know down in the comments below, of the Hasbro Pulse exclusives, do you prefer the regular release or do you prefer the exclusive releases? Okay, so here is our completed team using the exclusives. So those all look really cool. But if you wanted to swap out Human Torch, if you really wanted to kind of show the effect of each team member's powers, well, I guess I would have to switch out, you know, the hands that came with Mr. Fantastic, show a little bit of stretching. But there they go. I think it all looks really nice together. Okay, so here is the retro Fantastic Four Marvel Legends figures. The Fantastic Four themselves, not Psycho Man, not Doctor Doom, not the High Evolutionary, but the Fantastic Four teams themselves. All the different versions, so the regular releases and the exclusives, or exclusives and regular releases. But you guys let me know down in the comments below, what do you think of these figures? Are you a fan? I really like them. I enjoy them. I think the two exclusives are a nice touch, you know, completing the team with their classic look for the Human Torch, or doing something fun with Invisible Woman. I think it's really cool. I love the cards. I did get two. One is on the wall already, which completes. There are now 9 Fantastic Four vintage retro card figures, so it's a nice block of them, whereas X-Men is still a little thrown off. Spider-Man is getting more and more, so there's still 6 more to come, hopefully soon. But it's just crazy. But you guys let me know down in the comments below, what do you think of this Invisible Woman figure? What do you think of the Fantastic Four figures? What do you think of the retro card backs? Let me know in the comments below. If you guys like this video, please do me a favor, hit that thumbs up button, subscribe if you haven't already done so, and as always, thank you for watching.